Welcome back. We carry on with our newspaper review. As I mentioned earlier, I'm joined by a rising generation of political analysts, Nerima Wako, Stacey Chepkemoi, and Willis Misare. We carry on with this discussion. And before the break, I read a new SMS that caused quite some reaction here in studio. Let me read it one more time. Emmanuel from Umoja. No, actually, rather, it was actually two SMSs. Gilbert from Nandi says, demonstrations in Kenya are not peaceful, hence police tend to protect themselves as well. Nerima, you wanted to respond to that?
Yes, I wanted to say that there have been peaceful demonstrations, from the nurses to the doctors to the lecturers. We haven't had people losing property. The ones that we're concerned about are the ones for the students. And what I want to mention is the fact that those leaders are not saying anything to condone those actions. When you go out in protest...
Which leaders?
Like, for instance, this one, because it's political. If it was NASA, if it was Jubilee, they needed to stand up and say something.
Willie says it's not political. He says
supporters.
He says about Babu Owino.
Yes, then Babu should have said that it's fine.
Okay.
You don't need to come out for me. I'm already facing these charges in court, so let me do it in court. It's me as an individual. You don't have to do anything about property outside in public. But he didn't say a word. So that's the concern for me, because we have seen protests working, peaceful ones working, in other countries around the world. In some countries, they have specific days for protesting. All your issues, all of you, just come and line up. Let me hear for you what you want to say. But in Kenya, when we hear these issues coming up, especially the ones that turn out badly, we do not hear the leaders condoning those supporters.
Okay. Willis, there's something that we were talking about during the break, and I want to read your quote, and you can maybe weigh in on this. In the Standard newspaper, today's Standard newspaper, one of the students is quoted as saying that the Vice Chancellor, this is Professor Peter Mbithi, does not handle student issues. He avoids dealing with them. How much of yesterday's decision do you feel was driven by internal university politics? We are talking about Babu Owino, we are talking about NASA versus Jubilee, but are there issues within the university that also could have led to yesterday's closure? What do you think?
I think there are internal issues. It's not the first time that students at the University of Nairobi are complaining about Professor Mbithi. Because you look at the ongoings, there are people even now raising issues that, you know, the university has fallen in its rankings. For the first time, we are having staff who have not been paid for quite a while.
Okay.
A lot of student affairs are not being handled the right way. So, like I told you during the break, there is no administration that is interested in a strong and united student council.
And you're talking about universities around Kenya, across the world.
Personally, I ran to be chairperson of my university, and I lost by 16 votes. So we had an opposition because we felt that those who were elected were not really representing what the students wanted. And it happens across all universities. So that's why you saw, for example, what happened yesterday, two factions coming out, one saying this, one saying this. Those will always be compromised by the administration. And the moment definitely goes back to the divide and rule thing that happened even during colonialism. So I think there are a lot of internal factors at play. Students have always been shown discontent with the leadership of Professor Mbithi. And I heard one of them say clearly to the media when they were on their way home that sending us home is not the solution, it's just a postponement of the problem. Because the moment we come back, we are going to have this demonstration until this incompetent Vice Chancellor leaves.
Okay, and of course Professor Mbithi is not here to defend himself, so I'll limit the discussion around him, but nevertheless your point has been heard, and we're asking you at home, was it necessary for the Senate of the UON to send students home? What is your feedback and your thoughts on that? 22422, and talk to us on social media as well. Stacey, I haven't given you a chance. Someone telling you here to give just cause for your stand on the fact that some of the protesters went overboard, many feeling no, that it was within their constitutional right to do so. How would you respond to this gentleman? I can't find his SMS. We're getting so much feedback right now. How do you respond to that? They said that they felt that you're taking sides in this discussion.
No, I'm not taking sides. I'm actually giving my opinion and what I think ought to have been done. Yeah. Okay. And that is my personal opinion.
And that is your response to that.
And I don't think I'm even taking a personal side, because I'm a youth and I know what the Article 10 of the Constitution talks about, national values and the principles that we ought to demonstrate as young people. We need to play a major role in building the nation and developing ourselves and making use of our youth. Not just going to the streets. There are so many things we can do at our free time, not just getting to the streets and demonstrating because because you think Uhuru or Raila should be the president. How does it help you? How does
Did
it
you take
develop
part
as a
in
person?
protest when you were in campus?
I didn't take part in
Did
any
you
protest.
consider? Did you ever think about it?
I never considered taking part in any protest or demonstration.
Okay.
I studied international relations and diplomacy, and I always believe that it is diplomacy first. We must sit down and negotiate. We must sit down and discuss. We must sit down and place everything on the table, so that when we are getting to the streets to demonstrate,
yes,
in diplomacy, the war is the last resort. You don't get to demonstrate or picket or even call each other names before you sit down and see that these are my issues. Bring your issues. How can we resolve? How can we get to a win-win situation before we get to burning down the university? We get to telling everyone how much Professor Mbidi should go. We can say Professor Mbidi should go, but does it make you get to your 4th year and get your degree? He is already a professor. You're just a student in 1st year or 2nd year.
Interesting question.
We need to really rethink as young people how we want to handle our issues.
Okay.
You see, first of all, in this country, the reason why you find our issues as young people are not being addressed by either government or by either the university administration is we are a majority, but with a disorganized front. We are not organized. That is why we will always demonstrate, but our issues are not going to be addressed. That is why you will see young people getting nominated to Senate, to Parliament, to county assemblies, and they are not addressing our issues. It's because we are not organized as young people.
Okay.
We need to change how we do things as young people. We need to rethink of our strategies.
Nerima, do we need to rethink our strategies as young people?
Absolutely.
Could the students have found other ways to address their grievances apart from what we saw?
Yes, definitely. First of all, we need to understand what their grievances are. You know, a lot of times here we're even discussing what the main issue is. There's even confusion there, and even the media is even putting it in political factions. So we're not even sure. So the fact that there's that confusion means that it's disorganized. But I have to agree with Stacey on that in terms of young people are not organized and united, and that's what's lacking. And a lot of times it's because they do not have a strategy. And I always ask, what's our vision? Where do we want to see ourselves in the next 20, 30 years? Because a lot of times when you talk to young people, it's individually based. Me, I'm just trying to survive, you know. Me, I'm just trying biashara huku hapa.
And when they get nominated, they disappear.
They disappear.
Senate or the National Assembly.
They disappear. There's nothing like a country or a national vision. For you, as long as you succeed, unapata biashara uko sawa, don't worry about anybody else. And that's a bit of a worry.
Okay. Willis, during the last election, I think statistics in the run-up to the election showed that 15 to 24, or was it 15 to 35, were a large percentage of new voters. And in fact, political pundits felt that Jubilee NASA would really have to target that demographic if they wanted to win the election. Do you feel that despite the numbers that they are having their voice heard out there, or do you agree with the other two guests that not yet?
I'd like to respond to an issue first. I think Stacey was being rather academic in her approach. She told us she's into international relations and diplomacy. We cannot downplay the role that protests have played in creating change, not just in this country, the world over. People don't just wake up one morning and go to the streets before calling for dialogue, for instance. So we cannot downplay the role of protests and other forms of picketing.
Okay. Should they come first before other
they should come
conflict
first.
resolution?
I don't believe they come first.
Okay.
They've never come first. People will always say what they want done, and if no action is taken, then they resort to this. Now, onto the issue of us having a large segment of the population or voters as youths. You look at it this way, and I think we raised this last week. We do not vote as youths in this country. We vote as tribal blocks. We are raised that way. As early as the time somebody is in primary, class 6, they already know their tribe. They already know which tribe they should be associating with. You see parents sharing some type of questions that their children ask them concerning tribe and everything on social media. Then realize that the upbringing, the foundations that we get, will not allow us to consider our well-being as youth.
So even, and just to put this into perspective, even the group of youths yesterday, whether one faction or the other, who held the press conference, during the press conference they show a united face, but when they go to the polls, everyone then goes and votes according to their tribe.
You could have very good friends, personally, you have friends from campus and everything, on the weekends you are together. Even within campus you could even unite and play your politics together, you people drink together, you party together, you do a lot of things together. But when it comes to national politics, people are separated. I'm NASA, my friends are Jubilee. We meet and we say, look guys, we are here to have good time. Let us not talk politics. We know how it's going to end at the end of the day.
How do we change that narrative?
that narrative is going to be hard to change for those who have already, those are already in the voting age, unless something very radical happens. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be a very hard narrative to change, because the moment such a discussion starts, people take very hardline positions.
Even amongst young people.
Even amongst young people.
Okay. Sorry, Stacey, come in.
If you want change, you must change yourself first. Don't talk about change if you're not a changed person. And what he's saying is, he doesn't know what you must do as young people for change to come. I have to change myself. Nerima has to change how she does things. Willis has to change how he does things.
What are the characteristics of a changed person? What do they look like? Paint me a picture of a youth who's been changed, so to speak.
No, I can't talk about a youth who has been changed. Changed from what?
You're the one telling us.
So, how you approach, okay, let me just say, any young person who has a vision and knows what they want to be like in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years, or how do you want your children to behave in future, is how you approach issues.
Okay.
It starts with your conversation. If I meet you and I say, please, Wahiga, can we have a talk? Not just coming and bashing you and telling you things on your face and, getting into a conversation. It starts with how you handle yourself. It starts with how you take yourself. And on to responding to what my friend
briefly, because we are out of time.
He's saying, you're talking about protests and all that. You must have a strategy on how you do things. That is why you saw Nairobi University having 2 functions. One is coming here and one is coming here. So how can your issues then be addressed if you're coming in 2 divided fronts? You must have a strategy on how you approach your issues before you even come and tell us what problems you have. So as young people, we must have a strategy, and it is now that we must have that strategy so that this country changes. Okay. Some would say their strategy works because they got the attention of the Senate, but that's a discussion for another day. Nerima, Willis, I'll give you a minute each just to wind up because we are out of time. I think there is a gradual change in terms of conversations amongst the youth. I mean, there's a lot of intermarrying, and even for me in our family, we're 10 tribes. So 10 tribes already represented, and so you're seeing it's becoming something that's not uncommon and unheard of. So when you have those conversations even with young people, the tribal question comes from parents. Even when you're having your friends and all that, your parents will ask you, Yule ametoka wapi? It comes from your parents. And they don't mean the neighborhood. No. It's the tribe. Yeah. Okay. But then, so when our generation now becomes parents, that question will begin to decline more and more. And so I believe that there is hope. And I believe that there is opportunity for change, because at the end of the day, there are Kenyans who want to see change. We're tired of this. We're tired of this. Okay. And there are some who are looking for that diversity in our politics. Okay. Willis, parting shot? Yeah, I think as a nation, it's time that we took a step back and really looked into what direction we need to take. Because at the pace at which things are going, we're about to cross the Rubicon. And once we cross that, it might be very hard to even have what's called a nation anymore. So people need to sober up, and to fellow youths, I think, like Stacey said, that we need to change, but not everybody can change, because there are people who are actually doing the right thing already. So if everybody is to change, if you're changing from the right thing, then definitely you're changing to the wrong thing. So let's take long, hard looks into what's going on. Let's make the right choices, and as they've said, I believe that change can come, but it involves making some very tough decisions, breaking from certain norms that we've become accustomed to as Kenyans. Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your feedback. Let me read 2 SMSs real quick here. Caroline from Nairobi says there should be no police brutality at all costs. Police should protect, not attack citizens. Another person here, Morris from Huruma Ward, Honorable Morris Okiwi, says, good morning. The way Prof. Mbivi behaved with the information concerning the students' brutality is political. It's a problem postponed because we cannot wait and see so many things happening and police behave as if they are not Kenyans. And one last, Paul Orinde says there is Matiang'i mismanagement and misinterpretation of the 2 ministries. He will always use policemen instead of teachers to correct students. Okay, that's someone's opinion. And then Emmanuel says the police cannot keep on hurting people and then apologize. IPOA should wake up from their slumber and execute their mandate. Otherwise, we are going back to the dark days of Nyayo era. So much to talk about, so little time. Stacey Chepkemoi, Nerima Wako, Willis Misare, thank you so much for finding time to be here with us to talk about the youth
and of course the rising discussion about youth politics and protests. Hopefully we'll have time to talk about this next week on Wednesday. And for all those of you who took time to SMS us on 22422 or talk to us on our social media platforms, asante sana as well.